Happy Friday. Welcome to the Scoop World Order. I hope you guys are having a great week. The weekend is now here. We're getting close. The boys are taking off in 2 days. Practice is rolling along at the Woody Hayes. Got some updates on what's going on, some transfer portal potential information, and the defensive game plan, which I think you guys are going to really love. We're going to break into that. And also going to watch a little bit of the Penn State Oregon game and see some of the stuff that we're going to be exploiting defensively because they were tough. But again, Oregon's defense is pillow soft, so we're going to get into what we could be seeing from our guys. But as always, if you guys enjoy our content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, we appreciate you guys kicking with us. It's a Friday night. I know a lot of people are out and about. Hopefully you're at Twin Peaks or Buffalo Wild Wings, two of our proud sponsors. Two fantastic places to watch the games, watch these bowl games, watch NFL action, the playoffs, obviously college football playoffs, NFL playoffs. It's a great spot for both of them. Please take care of our partners. They're excellent partners with us. Again, two outstanding establishments, national brands. That's what we roll with. We like the biggest and the best, and Twin Peaks and Buffalo Wild Wings are official partners of the Scoop family, so make sure you guys take care of those guys. But again, if you guys enjoy our content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. If you guys want to do something awesome for us, subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Again, those are two easy ways to say thank you. And plus you get premium access for free. So again, when you subscribe there, it's completely free. It takes 2 seconds to do. Helps us out tremendously. So I appreciate you guys. That being said, it's time to bring in my guy, the future European, Mr. Nevadabuck, the soon-to-be king of Finland, the Finnish Flash, Nevadabuck, Helsinki Buck. Nevada, Jim Knowles took the stand today along with, we had Cody Simon up there. We had JT Tuimoloau up there. We had Jordan Hancock up there. Again, in general, pretty vanilla. No matter how thought-provoking a question is, and those things, they're trained to say nothing, and they didn't say much. But I really like Jim Knowles, and I think that Jim Knowles is as good as there's. I talked to a guy who's really tight in the program, and he thinks that this could be the best defense we've ever had. Now, again, the season is far from written, and obviously, I always think that there's a lot of revisionist history based upon the final game that they play, i.e., the 14 team winning the national title and smashing Oregon. The O2 team beating Miami. There's a lot of revisionist history on how teams are viewed and the lens and the players. Because in the moment, and again, Nevada, you're not a spring chicken. You've been around, you've seen a lot of this. There's a lot of times where these teams are like hated, players are hated, but then they win the big ring, just a giant deodorant stick. Everything's kumbaya and love, and we were rolling with you the whole time. But what are your thoughts on where this defense is right now and what they potentially could do over the next 3 games?
Well, first of all, to your point, I mean, for those of us that are old enough to really, and you remember O2, obviously you're being recruited, but that was the Buckeyes team that had at least 8 games that were like one-score games against some pretty bad opponents, and but put it together there at the end because there was no gauntlet to run. It was beat Michigan and then play for the national title, and they did it. And the 14 team, the 14 team has given up 13 more points per game than the Ohio State team is in 2024. So that's to put it kind of in historical context of how good this defense has been. They're going to play an aggressive game plan against Oregon. Oregon's got a terrific offense, but there were signs there. There was the Wisconsin game. Wisconsin played a heavy pressure package, was able to really move Gabriel around, and that really created some problems for them. And that was really the only time this year when he was really pushed that way. The first time we played them, the lack of pressure was so pronounced, so glaring, that it caused a course correction for Ohio State. It literally caused them to reassess how they're running their defense, how aggressive they're being in terms of their defensive packages, alter their willingness to put up with bigger plays, more explosive plays in return for an aggressive style that forced tackles for losses, sacks, and then hopefully turnovers. So I think that in a matchup like this, Ohio State's going to be the aggressive team. They know that they have to be aggressive. They're going to be far, far, far more aggressive than they were the first time around. And when you hear the Oregon people talking, and it's funny because even, you heard the coordinator talking today, and he was talking about what a huge advantage they have, and because Ohio State played last week. And I don't think Oregon knows what's going to hit them. I really don't. I think that they're been kind of lulled into this false sense of complacency because they threw the ball over our head the first time. They had some plays break, fortunately for them. Um, I mean, they gamed the system in such a way that the rules were changed 48 hours mid-season in a football season, which I've never seen before, and they won by 1 point at home. So I don't think that I think that this team is so markedly different from the team that they saw in Outson that it's almost going to be a completely different team. You've got an Ohio State offense that is operating with extreme confidence, and it's going to be, as aggressive as they were the first time around. They'll be way more aggressive in terms of this game because it works, and they realize that that's the way that they have to play. And then you've got a defense that's just going to be bringing it, and they're going to bring it. And I think that for Gabriel, he thinks he's going to be able to sit back there. He thinks he's going to be able to get comfortable. He thinks he's going to be able to time to throw to Tez and some of those other fast guys. And that's just not going to be the case. So completely different thing. And like I said, you look for those little clues in terms of the Oregon team. And like I said, my overall take on it is that Oregon feels like, hey, we can beat these guys. We've beat them before. And this is a different team, and this is a different scheme, and this is going to be a different ball game, and I think it's going to have a very, very different result. And again, and not to get too far off topic, but the comments from the defensive coordinator talking about how they've got this huge advantage. I mean, that didn't play well with the Ohio State guys. It's like, I mean, I think that they're looking for some sort of insulting talk or something they can have as kind of border, bulletin board material for them. And I think that was part of it. I think they feel disrespected by Oregon. They certainly feel that they've got a score to settle. And I love the way that this game's setting up. I love the way that the game plan's setting up. And I think Oregon's going to be in for a long day on the first.
Yeah, and I think that when you look at the last game they played against Drew Aller and Penn State, I mean, they were blowing coverages. I mean, Drew Aller lit them up like a Christmas tree, and Penn State's receivers are not Ohio State's. And frankly, I don't think Drew Aller is as good as Will Howard. And maybe I'm a homer, but in terms of big games, give me Drew Aller or give me Will Howard every day of the week over Drew Aller. We've seen him wilt versus Ohio State a couple times. I think that defensively, our ends and our interior guys are excellent. Like the guy that doesn't get enough credit is Tyleek. Like I watched Tyleek, and you want to talk about a guy who kicked the absolute crap out of Tennessee's interior. Like Tyleek was a force of nature. And again, Tyleek is one of those guys that if you put him in a Georgia Bulldog jersey or Alabama Crimson Tide in 2009 jersey, then you're like, yeah, that's about right. I mean, he's one of those types of guys, and he just doesn't. People just don't realize how good he is. I watched the film, and I mean, the first play of the Oregon game last year, he knocked their guard back 5 yards. In the very first play this year when we were up at Alston, and kind of like set a tone, and he's explosive for a guy who's 350 pounds or whatever he is. Like he's a guy that's twitchy, and I always joke that not every 350 pound guy is created equal when it comes to playing football and or life. You see a guy who's 350 pounds sitting at a restaurant. It's not the same as a guy like Tyleek who's twitchy and fast and explosive, and he is a force. And the way Jack and JT are playing him, those guys are on fire. I mean, I think Jack and JT could have a Ezekiel Elliott kind of run. You got to remember, I love Ezekiel Elliott, but I thought he was excellent in 14. Really, I thought he was going to be like Marshall Faulk, and I was correct. I mean, he's not quite Marshall Faulk, who's one of the greatest backs ever lived, first ballot Hall of Famer. But that's kind of what I thought his archetype was when I studied him, just because of his speed, his ability to catch the ball. Obviously, from St. Louis, which that didn't really factor into it as much as the overall player comp. But Ezekiel was like NBA Jam, where you hit 3 shots in a row and you're on fire. Like he hit the Wisconsin game, the Bama game, and the Oregon game. He was on fire, and all of a sudden he was a national brand and a national name. And I don't think he made second team All Big Ten. I mean, I think that literally going into the award season, he wasn't even second team All Conference in 14. And then he has that amazing run versus Wisconsin and Bama and Oregon. But I think JT and Jack are kind of on that slant where people don't realize that the guy that knows how good they are is Jim Knowles, because people are so spellbound by sacks. Like sacks are it's the only thing that matters. But like the way that they play the run is, I mean, they're just brutally efficient versus the run, and nobody quantifies that. There isn't like a sort of like a reverse pancake or some sort of statistic that shows when they stuff an offensive tackle in the hole or they hold the edge or they set the edge. There's no statistic that tracks that, but they are physical as the day is long, and they wear out offensive tackles. Like the guys from Tennessee tapped out. I mean, after JT and Jack got after him, and JT had his 2 sacks, and Jack had a sack and a half, and Jack missed one. He could have had 2.5 easy. So I like the edge pressure look. I think that our secondary is just flat out not going to play the way they did. Again, Caleb Downs missed the very uncharacteristically one of the smartest players in school history misses the onside kick, and Denzel has a bad game. And you look at where we've gone since then. Like I think since that game we haven't given up a passing touchdown, which in modern college football that's historically good, no matter who you're playing against. But we've played Penn State and Indiana, and we've played real teams this whole time. So I don't know. I'm just excited. Again, I was watching some of this Penn State tape. And we'll throw a play on here, and it's like Nevada. Like Drew Aller. These guys are blowing coverages like it was going out of style. So Drew Aller's simple little play action pass here, and just absolutely nobody home. So I don't know. Well, like I said, this is too easy, and there are a bunch of these. I mean, this is just a super simple. They got the 2 high safeties. They're both peaking. You pull this guard here. And, when you pull the guard, the whole reason you pull the guard is to get the play action fix. So you get these guys, and you get them, just lost in translation, run it right down the pike. And this is so easy, and this corner, he's in outer space too, right here. Lets the guy run right past him. Safety's in outer space. And when he catches this, there's that much separation. Safety's nowhere to be found. But, again, this is in the Big Ten title game. And I know that they might've been scoreboard watching, but this defense let Penn State come all the way back. Now their offense is explosive as can be, but the defense is, I think they're shoddy. Nevada, as you get into some of this, like what are some of the things that you're looking forward to seeing is us improve upon from the first game to this game?
Well, I think that we're going to take advantage of some of the structural defects in the Oregon defense. I don't think they're not a sound defense, and it's one thing we can talk about that Michigan game for Ohio State offensively, and we can talk about the things that went wrong, and we know exactly what went wrong, and we've put out theories as to why why it went wrong, and we've dissected that thing to death. But then we came back with an effort against Tennessee that was completely different, varied, aggressive, and extremely effective. But the defense has never wavered. The defense, we got hurt that first game against Oregon, with deep passes, and that was literally the only time that's happened all year. And as a fan, you just got to ask yourself, do you really believe that's going to happen again? And it might. You can never say never in terms of football, but I don't think so. I think that the way that we schemed against Tennessee, we schemed to take away the deep shot that Nico really liked, kind of shut down their passing attack. Their passing attack came in. They thought they were going to be able to pass against us. I think he threw for 104 yards. So, I'm not saying that we'll hold Dylan Gabriel to that, but I think they'll play a similar scheme where they'll take away the deep shots. They'll make them, continue to move the thing down underneath. And for Ohio State, I just think that offensively, there's when you watch Oregon and when you watch them against Boise State and when you watch them against us the first time around and when you watch them against Penn State, you realize that they're just they're kind of reckless. They do a lot of high risk stuff that that can work sometimes, but when you beat it big and you beat it for big yards, and you can beat it for big yards at the ground, you can beat it for big yards on the air. There's nothing in the game that says, hey, they're going to stifle us defensively. And that's the thing that I'm the most excited about, because, as often happens in these big matchups, especially lately, it's a game that you're expecting to be a high scoring game. I think the game's going to go over in terms of the total. I think the total's 57. I think it's going to go easily over that. And I think the question is, who's going to be able to get more stops? And I think you've got a structurally reckless and not fundamentally sound defense in Oregon, and you've got a defense at Ohio State that is in the conversation for the best defense that we've ever had. So I think when you look at those two things side by side, you go, man, I really like the advantage of Ohio State, and the odds makers do. There's been so much public betting. It was kind of like the Ohio State Tennessee game. The Ohio State Tennessee game, everybody in their mother and the public was betting Tennessee. Take that 7.5 points. Oh my God, this is stealing. Take that 7.5. Bye, 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 bye. And Las Vegas stood strong on that line. And people think that Vegas doesn't take positions on lines. They do. They absolutely do. They don't just balance the money and take 10%. They will take positions. They took a position. They took a stand in the Tennessee game because they thought Ohio State was much better than Tennessee. Well, they're taking a stand on the Oregon game because this is a lot of Oregon money coming in from the Joes, but the line's not coming down. It's still sitting at 2.5. So this is a pros versus Joes spot. Like, it's going to be a game of stops, and I am so sure that Ohio State's going to get more stops than Oregon. I'm betting heavily on Ohio State on this game, just so you guys know.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that when you see all of the things that went wrong in the first game, it was just so atypical of how the season's gone, because you've got, you've got a team, I think, at that point in the season that was still kind of gelling a little bit. I mean, Will Howard, you got some of your best players that have only been here for, I've been here since, January, but I mean, this is a whole different ball of wax now, man. And I'm telling you, and after watching the Tennessee game, and again, if you throw out the Michigan, like usually, like when you measure statistics, you always throw out the best and the worst, and kind of study the stuff in the middle, the most, I guess, progressively analyzed stuff. And I think that the way that this offense is operated versus everybody except for Michigan, which is I think a complete aberration. We've been a force, and again, I think that. Waking JJ up, getting JJ rolling early is critical. I think Emeka, coming back to the Rose Bowl where he was sensational as a freshman 4 years ago, that'll engender a little bit of, I think, that goodwill. I mean, he was just impossibly good as a kick returner when we beat Utah that year. And I just think that the way our front is playing, it's going to be tough. I mean, those guys, they're going to have to throw it over our heads, and I think that you're gonna take away what beat us last time, which was a couple of bombs. And again, I think that this is one that Denzel's been hoping to see again. And they were a pretty nasty bunch. I mean, they spit in Davison's face. I mean, there's something to this game. This isn't just a regular old Rose Bowl to me. I think there's some bad blood. I know there's bad blood. I mean, talk to these kids, and this isn't just a trip out to go to the Lowry's Beef Bowl and go to Disneyland. This is a trip to go. Take revenge, and revenge is fine. I mean, retribution. These guys have a chance, like I said, to be the best team in Ohio State history. This to me is the best defense in Ohio State history. And again, I don't care what the result of this is. You look at the schedule they've played and how prolific they've been and how they've kept people out of the end zone. Like I don't know. I mean, I know that people will go back to the 0-2 team, and obviously we beat the Hurricanes, and we held a lot of bad teams out of the end zone that year. But I just think, pound for pound, player for player, like, it's tough to beat these guys. I mean, with Jack and JT and Tyleek and Ty Hamilton and Cody and Sonny, and then you look at our back end with Caleb and Lathan, Jordan Hancock. I mean, we've got a lot of depth, a lot of good players. Our rotational guys like Kenyatta Jackson are starting to come on, which is great. Something I really love about Jim Knowles is that he made it a point in the team meeting to basically exonerate Kenyatta from that impossibly bad roughing the passer. He put it up on the screen, talked about how he went through it and said, I wouldn't change, basically, and I'm sure he used some very colorful language, anything about what you did. Because again, Nico, who's 6'7" or whatever it is, like, if he pulls that ball down and runs and he tackles him, that's perfectly fine. But when you're in the moment as a defensive end and you're hitting a quarterback, again, I played defensive end in high school, like, you don't know if he still has the ball or not when your shoulder, and it was a clean hit, wasn't dirty. That was one of the worst calls I've seen in the history of football. But I really thought it was cool that Jim Knowles made a big point of exonerating Kenyatta, because again, that's something where in the moment, for people that aren't intelligent and don't understand football, then they blame the kid and how could you? But it was it was a bad penalty. There's nothing dirty about it. It was and again he hit him shoulder, no crown of the helmet. I mean landed on him, but it is still football. You know, I mean running backs get landed on every play and nobody cares. But I don't know. But yeah, I like I said, I love the direction of this team, and again, like I think that the benefit of playing that first playoff game is you get that, like, we've got a tidal wave of momentum right now. We've got confidence. We've got you know, we haven't had as long of a layoff. Again, the layoff thing is something that I go back and forth on. I really think it depends on how veteran the team is, how used they are to having layoffs. Again, like if the Kansas City Chiefs have a layoff, I don't think it's a big deal. I think younger teams, it can get you a little sideways. And, you know, the quicker you can get out of here, they're getting out there on Sunday, get away from the distractions, get away from Columbus and everybody wanting to talk to you and everybody wanting to, you know, kind of pat you on the back and stuff. Like, you got to get out there and get in the barracks and get focused up, because this is going to be a war, man. And again, I'm so excited for these guys to have an opportunity to take these guys down again. And I feel really confident about this. The more I hear about what's going on in the Woody, you know, between that and the work we're doing on the transport, I mean, Nevada, like, this is as good of a stretch as we've been on, you know. And again, I know that people get caught up in that Michigan game, and the Michigan game is terrible, obviously, but you know, like this team's got a real chance to do something incredible. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, let's talk about the layoff, the 18 days or whatever it is. And you know, it was funny listening to Urban Meyer, because first of all, when Urban Meyer talks, I always listen to what he says, because I really believe he's the smartest guy to ever. If he's not the smartest guy to ever coach, he's on the Mount Rushmore of smart guys. And it's funny, of all things he talked about. He talked about when he first got stuff, he called Lou Holtz. He's like, I want to talk. Lou Holtz is a smart guy. I know people know Lou Holtz now as kind of this, you know, octogenarian kind of shrill guy that Ryan Day yells at or whatever it is. But you know, Lou in his time was really, really sharp, and he just talked about how he called Lou, and Lou, you know, told him, it said the biggest thing when you're getting these guys ready on these long, you know things is routine, because you know the players like routine. When you get them out of their routine, it really, you know, creates problems. And I think for Ohio State, you know, having, I think, an 11-day layoff like they had between this big Tennessee win and this is perfect. I think it's close enough to have stayed sharp. You can keep guys, you know, but not so much that you've used up your energy stores, your emotional stores, and so that you're worried about any type of a letdown comes this, because it's far enough. But you know, for Oregon, it's what, 18 days or something like that, and that's a long time this time of year. And I think, you know, for them, I just think I think we absolutely do have the advantage, because we're coming off our best game. We're coming off our best game of the year, coming into this game, and I absolutely believe for an Ohio State team that we knew that when they got to the playoff, we were going to be going one way or another. You either be playing your best, you're either building and playing your best football, or you've peaked and you're kind of sliding down and you're playing not your best football. And I don't think anybody can look at this Ohio State team and go, "Wow, is the trajectory up or down?" I think it's clearly pointing up on both sides of the ball, and that's what's exciting. We actually put together, I'd say probably in all three phases, we put together a pretty, close to perfect game against Tennessee, and that's what you want to do come playoff time. You want to be playing. It doesn't. You don't win the championship in week 6 or week 10 or week 11, but when it come playoff time, that's when it is. And we're one quarter of the way down. We've got another big game coming up here, but I think that the timing of it and the way that the thing broke down is absolutely perfect for Ohio State. And again, not to belabor the point about the format and the CFP, but it's just a ridiculous format that the two best teams are playing this week in Oregon and Ohio State, and you've got SMU and Boise State and all these other just bogus imposter teams playing as well. But I like I said, I think Oregon really got a bad break in getting us right now, and I think they got us. It's the wrong team to be playing at the wrong time to be playing it, and I think the result, that's going to be bad news for Oregon. And you can hold me to that. We'll be here. We won't be hiding. I may be in Finland, and it may be dark all the time, but I will be on after. But we'll see. I'm telling you right now, Ohio State's Ohio State's they're in a good frame of mind. They've got a great game plan. They're extremely confident in this, and not that everybody doesn't want it, but there's an extra little juice, like you said. I mean, you're talking about a team where a guy literally spit in one of our guys' face the last time around, and Oregon hasn't been bloodied this year. We've taken 2 losses this year, and we're still standing. Oregon's gone unscathed, and sometimes the pressure of that's a lot too. So if you ask me which team I'd rather, I would way rather be the Buckeyes than the Ducks right now, and I mean that sincerely. I mean that as a bettor. I mean that as a fan. I mean that as somebody just an observer of the game. I love our position in it way more than I like Oregon's, and I mean that sincerely.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I'm not Bounty Gate. I'm not Greg Williams. So I'd take a shot on that guy that spit in Davidson's face. Again, you don't have to say that, but like that's what I would do. And again, if it's a 15-yarder, I'd take it. But if a guy spits in your face, like as a defense, like I don't know how after that's been replayed in your head and everything else. I mean, that's as heinous as it gets. So again, I'm gonna put up another one watching the vaunted Oregon defense, which again, this ain't exactly eating nails and glass right here, but. This is just straight Q power right here. Q power read. So you're reading this guy. You're bringing him around here. Depending on what this guy does. So he's static. He's taking the back. So basically this is a pull. And I mean, they meet him at the 3 here. I mean, you got 3 of these 4 Ducks, and just powers all the way into the end zone. So I mean, again, is this all out just kick butt effort? And again, it's so hard for me not to swear, but I really try not to swear. But I mean, like, you got 3 Ducks right here versus Drew, and just powers in over all of them. And again, they're clawing all the way back. It was like 28-10. Now this is 28-24. So I mean, like I watched those plays, and I just don't think they're a very tough outfit on defense. And again, I think that we had a lot of mistakes, which killed us. Obviously, I'm going to harp on that, but we clean up the fumble and a couple other things. This thing won't be close. I think we're much more physical on both sides of the ball now. That mentality is sunk in. Especially our O line is really. I mean, they mauled Tennessee, and Tennessee has an excellent front, excellent. And I said that all week. And again, I'm not the guy that's like, well, they're not very good after we played them. I was like, no, like we just mauled them. Like the mentality. And again, I've said it a million times. The scheme was tremendous, and the scheme is so important. Putting these guys in good situations. Again, you don't have to make it, 5 drive blocks, and you got to push everyone 5 pancakes for us to get a yard. Like you can use deception now. Again, like Chip Kelly, like he's, you do some of that RPO stuff, man. I mean, it is real hard to go against, real hard. And again, that RPO stuff, if you're a safety or a linebacker, is living heck. It's so bad to go against, and I love it. And again, I think that I don't know if you talk to the official before the game to see how far you can get with your offensive lineman on the double, because the problem with the RPOs I always talk about is that on the double team blocks, there's always one guy that's going to be loose to climb to the linebacker. And it really comes down to how lenient is the crew going to be. And it's an ACC crew. So again, that's what we had last week. So again, like I would, if I was Ryan Day and I was sitting there in the big chair at the front of the staff room, I'd say, I get one of the little Geppettos, one of the 700 interns we have working in there. And I'd say, hey, study this crew and see how many times that they've called, ineligible man downfield. Study this crew, and then study the conference, study the ACC, because again, different conferences have different edicts from their commissioners and from their rules committee about what to enforce. And again, like it's so funny. I sent Nevada this hilarious stat a little bit ago, and it was about the lack of penalties that we've had per game, and we have the fewest opponent penalties per game in the country. So we get no calls is basically what this means. And we haven't had a holding call. Like offensive lines are just allowed to hold our guys nonstop all day, every day. They never call holding against our dudes. But yeah, but again, I would study that, because if they're not going to call that in the ACC or with this crew, Ooh boy, those RPOs are going to be they're going to be nasty. And again, that's something that teams do. Like really proficient teams, they study the officiating crews. And again, I know that sounds stupid, but they're not a bunch of you don't have a bunch of robots running out there. There's some crews that love to make calls and they want to be the stars of the show and the bells on the ball, and there's some that don't. So that's something that if I was Ryan, I'd make sure. And again, I'm not saying you structure your entire game plan around that, but if I get a crew and I find out that they never call illegal man downfield because they're just not looking at it or they don't care to call it, then I don't know, because that can be a judgment call. I mean, it could be, and again, that's what RPOs are basically based upon, rolling the dice. It's like you're shooting dice and you're hoping that you're not going to come up snake eyes because they're calling that all the time. They're calling the eligible man downfield. Nevada, any thoughts on that? We'll start digging into some super chats.
We know that the chart you put up was interesting because 5 of the 6 teams. I mean, when you say last, sometimes people think that last means in the bottom third, or no, we're literally last out of 134 teams. But 5 of the 6 teams are in the Big Ten. And I just want to ask you a quick question before we get the super chats. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that 5 of the 6 teams that have the fewest opponents penalties called are on the Big Ten? Because there's got to be is there some sort of simple answer that I'm just missing?
I don't know. And three of them are 3 of the best, Michigan, Penn State, and us. So it's not like it's just Rutgers and Purdue, and I mean it's 3 of the really big time teams. I mean, us and Penn State, I mean, we're 2 of the top 4 teams in the country right now. So I don't know. Like again, I hope it's not an edict. I hope it's not like gambling related. I'm not trying to be tinfoil hat guy, but that is really peculiar that we can be that good, because like I don't see Oregon on there. I don't see Texas on there. I don't see Georgia on there. I don't know. Like I don't see the conference works against us. But I mean, we saw what like the calls that when the Miami Hurricanes needed a call versus Cal Berkeley, man, they were begging to get those guys into the playoffs, man. So I don't know. It smells fishy. It looks fishy. It's bizarre that we could be that good and literally get the fewest number of penalties. Because again, like you got to understand, like penalties, they're game changers. I mean, I always go back to, and I'm not going to go down the Wayback Machine, but when we lost to LSU my senior year, my last game I ever played in the championship, we had 5 personal fouls. 5. Those are 15 yards and an automatic first down. And one was on 4th and 22 when we hit the punter. We roughed the punter. Austin Spittler, who I love to death, ran with his arms like this. The ball, if he puts his hands like this, the ball hits him right in the head. But he's like this, and it goes right between his arms, and then he tackles the punter, and it's an automatic first down. So again, it's hard to overcome that. It really is. I mean, that's why when people say what happened to us against LSU, like Florida, I say we got our butts kicked. LSU, I said we just were too dumb to win the game. Like our team, as a team, we were too dumb. 5 personal fouls, dropped a touchdown, false starts. Like you can't do that versus good teams. That's just a lack of whatever it is. I'm not saying like we weren't prepared, but because we prepared, we had a good prep for that, but we just played dumb that day. I don't know, Nevada. It's peculiar though that we can be that good with 0 help, literally the least amount of help in the country from the officials. Anything to add to that?
No, I just think it's weird. I mean, and it's not new either. I mean, we'd have to look through the stats, but through most of Tressel's tenure, I remember many a year where we were dead last, and I always attribute that to being that we were too nice, that we didn't work the refs hard enough to get the calls. But Ryan works them. I mean, he's yelling at them and he's screaming at them, and it's genuinely weird, and I'm gonna have to give it some more high quality thought because there has to be a reason why that's style of play or refereeing edict in the league. Something is going on, but it's weird how few calls that we get, because I totally agree that the penalties in football are overpowered, and we get less of them than any other team in college football, and that's certainly strange.
Yeah, I mean, and Tressel worked the officials. Now, Urban would he was Godzilla versus, and the officials were Tokyo. But Ryan, they always get Ryan on the field, and I mean he's not shy about it, about letting those guys know. So, but again, he probably has a reason to. Like when we don't get any calls ever, and again, the fact that we have JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, Ty Leak, and Ty Hamilton, and we haven't had a single holding call this year is insane. That's crazy. Like these offensive linemen aren't that good. I mean, come on. So, all right. Digging into these super chats. Again, I appreciate you guys being with us on this Friday night. Appreciate all you guys do. All right. C. Brown. Thanks for the deuce. What conference is covering the Rose Bowl officiating? The ACC. So the same that we had last week. And I'm fine. And honestly, Nevada, I know that you're right with me because you've already said it and I've got a good memory. But I thought they did a good job. I thought they were fair, minus the roughing the passer call, which I thought was atrocious. I thought that they were fair. And again, officiating to me is the hardest job in the world outside of, being in the military or being armed force. Like for just for a civilian job. Obviously I don't put anything next to being a police officer or being in law enforcement or being a firefighter, first responder or military. But for a civilian job, being an official is very difficult. But I thought that they were fair. And again, that's all I ask. All I want is fair. Again, I've been screwed by officials. You go watch that Illinois game, in 07, my senior day when I lost on senior day, and that entire crew got suspended 2 weeks later after the Purdue Indiana game. Go Google that. 2007 officiating Ohio State Illinois. That crew got suspended for being linked to gambling. So again, this isn't Kirk with the tinfoil hat on. That really happened. So sometimes when you're seeing some stranger things happen, you're just like, huh, that's a little peculiar. Like we don't seem to be getting any calls. Huh, that seems like a very oddball call to make to help Illinois out, but it is what it is. So I'm still surviving. But Nevada, your thoughts? Your thoughts on the ACC crew?
Well, I just don't want. For me, I always just don't want the refs to be the story. Just stay out of the way. Call just the most obvious ones. Don't have any egregious replay reviews, which I know involves people beyond the field and the replay official. And just don't be the story. Just don't make yourself the story. Just let the teams decide the game, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with them missing some calls. And you pointed out that they missed Donnie Jackson down the line on the second TD to JJ, and then maybe the Kenyatta Jackson roughing the passer call kind of negates itself out. But just don't make yourself the story. Just stay out of the way. Let the teams play, because you know it. I've coached in games. I've played in games where the officials think that everybody came there to watch them, and they're out there just throwing flags left and right and reversing calls and man, that's the stuff that drives me up the wall. I don't care if they miss stuff. Just don't be over officious, and I'll be happy.
Like that one fat official you had in the girls hockey game the one time that had back-to-back 5-on-3s against, or it was something crazy like that, and you're like, you're just like,
I'm losing my mind, man. Just
back-to-back 5-on-3s, and you're because the goalie, and you're like, you gotta kill that off for 5 straight minutes of 5-on-3 hockey.
And the worst thing is in women's hockey, etiquette dictates that you can't scream at the officials. Like when my son played, you could yell at the officials, and me and the other dads would sit up there and drink beer and then yell at the officials, and it was so much fun when you're Bantam A hockey and you do that. But elite women's hockey, you can't yell at the officials. You just have to sit there and just take it the whole time. So yeah, it's like you have no emotional release when you're doing that. So it's a different kind of Hades being out there and not being able to yell at the officials. Because I like yelling at the officials.
You from the Urban Meyer School of Officiating?
Oh, I like giving it to him. I like giving it to him.
I love Urban, man. Urban was, he was just he was a ball of napalm on the sideline, and it was the best. Urban was the best. D Sunny, thanks for the 5. How good do you think Dan Lanning and his staff are? Is Lanning the coaching flavor of the month, or will he be an A-lister? Well, I think that he's closer to being an A-lister. He's done a lot of things right. He hasn't really won anything. He won the Big Ten this year, but and again, that counts. But again, they I don't know. I think that he's got a lot of momentum, and I think that he's at the right spot. They've got a blank checkbook for NIL, which is huge now. Oregon's a much better job than it was 5 years ago, to me. Again, when you can have Phil Knight say all kinds of crazy stuff, and I love Phil Knight, but when he can take some kid and say, "Hey, I'll make you a shoe," and the kid believes it, that's interesting. But I think his staff is good. Like Drew Behringer, their tight ends coach, me and him were the GAs in 2012 on offense at Ohio State. Drew was Tom Herman's protege. Had a nasty fallout with Tom. Tom actually fired him at Texas. But Drew was like kind of a phenom. He went from, we were GAs together. He went to James Madison as the offensive coordinator when he was like 24 years old as the OC at James. And then he went to Rutgers with Chris Ash and was like a 25 or 26-year-old offensive coordinator. And then he drove that train off the cliff. And I love Drew, but they were like 135th in total offense his year. They're the worst team in the country. And he got out of there and went to Texas. Or he went to Houston, he went to Rutgers, then he went to Texas with Tom as the receivers coach, and then had a bad falling out. I mean, fired him, and but he's at Oregon now, and he's does really really sharp guy. And we used to run the scout teams. I would run the front, he'd run the back. Like I'd run the front, 6 guys, and he'd run the back end and run the coverages, and we had a good little system there. But I don't know. I think that the staff is good, but I think our staff is better. And there's no way in the universe I would trade our 2 coordinators for their 2 coordinators. I wouldn't trade our head coach for Dan Lanning. As much as people wanted to do that a month ago, I'm an offensive first guy. I love offense. Give me offense, please. Please, please, please. As much as I like having a defensive guy, I don't know, but we'll see. I mean, this is a big game for both staffs. And I like Jim Knowles and Chip Kelly with 11 days of preparation over their staff. Nevada, what are your thoughts? From D Sunny, and again, I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for always being on here. Thank you for the 5. How good do you think Dan Lanning and his staff are? Is Lanning the coaching flavor of the month, or will he be an A-lister?
Yeah, I like our staff substantially better. I mean, I think this is one of the best staffs that we've ever had at Ohio State. And in terms of a pair of coordinators in Knowles and Kelly, I'm not sure it's ever been better than that. And I agree with you. I would take Ryan Day over Dan Lanning anytime. But I think Dan Lanning's a great coach. I mean, I shouldn't say great. I think he's a very good coach who's having a great season with taking advantage of the fact that he's on the West Coast. USC's down, UCLA's down. They're kind of the power out there right now, and you've got the backing of Phil Knight and the money and the facilities. So they're taking advantage of it. And he's playing a very aggressive style of football, which I think agrees with them. And I think he's doing a nice job. I think only time will tell how good. I think he's closer to being an A-lister than just being a flavor of the month. I think his bust potential is really low because I think he's a smart guy. I think he's got a really good background, and I like the way he coaches. So but I think, having said all that, I think that there is a decided edge for Ohio State in the coaching department come this Rose Bowl. And as much as we can go by position by position, group by group, I think given the relevant experience that Ryan Day and his staff have compared to Lanning and his group, I think advantage to Ohio State. And I think the gamblers in Vegas know that as well. More than one of those people has mentioned that to me.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think this is the best staff we've ever had, from top to bottom. I honestly don't think it's close. When you look at Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles, and I mean, Jim Knowles is literally running the number 1 defense in the country right now. So I mean, if you want to talk about historically good, like let's start with number 1 through the 13 games that we've played. And again, this hasn't been like my senior year where we had or 2012 where we had like the softball schedule of we dodged playing Texas, we dodged playing, like these guys had to go to Oregon, to Penn State, number 5 Indiana comes to the shoe. This was a real schedule. Like, I mean, again, my senior year, cakewalk. I mean, just be real. And like the 2012 cakewalk. I mean, we didn't have like that monster Texas coming to the Horseshoe type game, or we had to go to Austin, or USC's coming to the Horseshoe. Like, we didn't have one of those. So but I think that Brian Hartline's as good as there's ever been at wide receivers. I think Justin, he gets a lot of flack, but I think that the development speaks for itself. I mean, we're down to 8 and 9 on the line starting right now, and whooped up on Tennessee. A bunch of future NFL guys beat the brakes off of them. So, and defensively, LJ's excellent, and I think James Laurinaitis is a superstar in the making, and he's going to have a huge career at Ohio State. Hopefully, he'll be our head coach after Ryan's done. And then you've got our back end's been good. You got Uncle Tim, or the Reverend Tim. His little sermons every Thursday, and Tim Walton does a really good job. And Matt Guarani, or I always misspell his name. Like, he's Jim's guy, so that helps in the back end and helps solidify everything. So like it. Madamus Prime, what is up, brother? I hope you are doing good. Thank you for the 5, and thank you for being an Ultra member as well. Do you think our scouting that told us Oregon just throws short passes down the field, is that what got us a bit shell-shocked on the defense? I don't think so. I mean, you don't recruit a bunch of guys to run 4-3 just to run, short routes. I mean, you're recruiting those guys to take the top off the defense. Those guys they're like Diet Coke versions of Deshaun Jackson in terms of what their skill set is. Like Taz is a guy who's straight deep shot. So I don't know. Like I said, I think that, when you're a corner and they throw it up on you, you got to go get it. And I think that, when Denzel misses a couple of them, then it kind of compounds and it sticks in people's craw. And corner is a tough position, man. Cornerback is like playing quarterback. Like when you have a mistake, it's like when Will Howard throws a pick 6 to start the Penn State game, half of Columbus is ready to jump off a bridge, but then he calms it down and wins the game and does his thing. And with Denzel, they threw it over his head a couple times, and he's got to do better. But again, he knows that, and he's been lights out since then. So, I mean, let's just he's going to be an NFL corner. He's going to play a long time in the league, and I think he's dying to see these guys again. Again, I couldn't imagine getting a rematch in a game where you got humiliated. Like if we could have played the Florida Gators again and had Ted Ginn with his ankle intact, his leg not broken, like I couldn't imagine how much different that game would have been. How different you would have prepped and planned, and things that hurt you can fix. And that's why I said the team that loses has got a huge edge, because there's no complacency. There's no, hey, we already beat them once. There's no, hey, we'll play a third time for a rubber match. Like this is it. The first game means nothing at this point, other than you get some scouting done out of it. But I'm excited for these guys. Nevada, your thoughts again, Mattis. I appreciate you being on here, brother, as always. He says, do you think our scouting told us that Oregon just throws short passes on the field? Is that what shell shocked us on defense? What are your thoughts, Nevada?
Well, they had done that a lot, and I think frankly we were probably a little surprised by their speed on the outside. Good news is, won't be surprised this time, and you've got some guys that got a lot to prove. I mean, Denzel's never had a game like that before or since. It was just weird. It was just one of those nights. But as you were talking about the rematch, it have me thinking, like, after you beat Michigan, 42-39 or what, I think that was the score in the big 1-2 game. Would you have wanted to play them again in like a bowl game or something like that?
I mean, no. I don't want to play Michigan again. I was, again, you can call me soft, call me whatever. I mean, I know that's a team that we had already beaten, but like, I don't want to play those guys again and then risk losing to Michigan in the national championship. I mean, it was a 3-point game. That game could have easily gone the other way. So I wouldn't have wanted to play them again. Again, I thought Florida was good. And again, I'm not trying to take anything. They won the national championship. They were great that night, beat the tar out of us. But like, I didn't think they were that good. I thought that we obviously, like, it's like I always say, take every team on the first play of the game of every single football game this weekend. Take the best player on offense off their team. Take Pat Mahomes off Kansas City. Take whoever, off of every team. Take Dylan Gabriel off of Oregon. Take Will Howard off of Ohio State. That's what Teddy was. I mean, Teddy was, he's the highest drafted guy on the field that day on either team. So we lose him on the first play. And again, there's no excuses. Again, Florida won fair and square. Love Urban Meyer to death. My dad had his cancer surgeries at Florida. So like, I love the Florida Gators. So don't get me wrong. Now, I didn't love them that night, and I didn't love getting, my teeth kicked in by them, but I didn't think they deserved a rematch. Again, I thought that you should have a new opponent. And frankly, I don't want to play Michigan again. We'd already beaten them. Again, I don't want to run the risk of losing to those guys. That was the best part about my old life is like, once we beat them, we were good for 364 days. So I wasn't trying to see them again in 41 days or whatever it was. So, but that's just my opinion. Are you surprised by that?
I am not surprised by that. I just it's funny because we never talked about that before. But I think once you beat a team, man, I would not want to play them again. I just think that there's so many advantages that go. And like you said, you ran that, if you had a chance to run that Florida game back and run it back on a different field and you're healthy, and now we're not 100% healthy. We don't have Josh Simmons, we don't have Seth McLaughlin, but we're healthy. If we lose this game to Oregon, it's not because of health. It's not a health. We're as healthy as we could expect to be at this point in the year. Our guys have played together. Our guys have practiced. We're ready to go, and yeah, I would not want to play a team again that I had beaten, especially if it was a close game at home, and then see them on neutral site. I'd be like, there'd be something in the back of my mind going, man, we just barely got these guys last time. I don't want to have to run that back again, and that's where we find Ohio State in this situation. I think I really think that's a big emotional edge for Ohio State.
Well, yeah, because you're talking about is Oregon. Oregon is like, hey, Oregon is like, hey, you're Ohio State and you just won the 42-39 game at home. Do you want to see that team that you barely beat at home with the biggest? And again, that Ohio State Oregon game, there's a lot of parallels between that and the 1-2 Michigan game where it's like, I don't think they wanted to see us again. There's no way. That was probably the best environment in the history of the horseshoe. I mean, there's no way there's been a better environment than the 1-2 Michigan game, because that's something that we'll never see again for the rest of our lives. Let's just be real. So, and again, the winner of that team,
81 points scored. I mean,
yeah,
come
81 points scored. It was a night game because it was a 3:30 start in November, and plus, like, you got to remember, like, the stakes of that game were you get a hat and a T-shirt for winning the Big Ten, you get the trophy. The commissioner of the Big Ten is in the locker room to hand you the trophy. You're going to the national championship automatically. I mean, it's literally like a advanced direct to Boardwalk. It's like on Monopoly, you get the cards as advanced direct to Boardwalk. It's like you may purchase Boardwalk now. It's like that's what it was like. You win this game, you get to go straight to the Natty. There's no tournament. There's no Big Ten title game. There's no 3 games in the playoffs before you can get there. You're right there. So, but yeah, that's where Oregon is. I mean, I'm sure Oregon don't want to see us again. Promise, because again, they were talking that talk after the game, and they're feeling pretty proud of themselves. So, but again, we all thought we'd see them again. We're not going to run through this thing and not see those guys again. So, I said the night of the show, go watch our 4-hour cast that we did till about 5 a.m. and Nevada's about to die. He's weekend at Bernie's by the end of that thing, and I was just like, wait till we see these guys again, because we'll have a huge edge. The team that loses is going to have an edge, especially when we lose like that. They don't give us the review. Whatever. We don't get a chance to kick the field goal. We're marching it down. I mean, really, we ran out of time more than a loss. If we had another 30 seconds, we'd win the game because they couldn't stop us coming down the field. All right. Thank you, Madness Prime. I appreciate you, brother. Hope you're doing well. Hope you have a great new year. Pooh 12, the funniest human being on earth, I think. Thanks. I always love these. Oh, God, it's a poem. Thanks for being ultra member as well. Hickory Dickory Dock. Well, Howard ran out the clock, but this time around, 4 points will be found. Bucks are a natty lock. Pooh Beard, I know that you do you get all the, what is it called when a guy gets snipped? When a guy can't make kids anymore. Like, that's what he does for a living. So, but you're just as funny as you're good at doing that thing. What's that called in Nevada? Or you can't make kids? Kim wants me to do it.
Yeah,
she started having kids. Vasectomy. Yes, that's what he does. Vasectomy guy. So, as funny as he is, he's also equally good as stopping the flow of kids. So I appreciate you, Pooh Beard. You're the man. So, Nevada, do you like the Hickory Dickory Dock? Will Howard ran out the clock, but this time around, more points will be found. Bucks are natty lock. I love that.
Yeah, I think it's more like Will Howard ran out the clock, but we'd have missed the kick anyway. So it doesn't matter what you say. Ohio State's going all the way.
And Will Howard stinks.
Will Howard stinks. Now everybody's glazing Will Howard now. They love Will Howard now. Oh, he's the best. Will Howard's everybody's on the Will Howard train now. And it's like, guys, I never left. He had a bad game. He had a bad game against Michigan, and a lot of people had bad games. But as bad as he was against Michigan, boy, he was good against Tennessee. I mean, he was like, talk to the NFL scouts, man. He was NFL scout good against Tennessee. And that definitely got some people's attention. I can tell you that.
Well, like for you, like in the pantheon of like Nevadabuck, like staking out ground, like Will Howard is almost like, he's almost like in the same realm as like COVID for you at this point. Like
Well,
you're
I
over
mean,
here and everybody else is over here, and you're like, I
well,
think I'm right. And everyone else
I
is
no,
like, no.
I knew I was right on COVID from day one. You remember that?
I know.
I knew exactly what that was. I knew exactly what that was. And
Oh God.
with Will Howard, it's the same thing. I mean, I know who Will Howard is, and everybody's eventually going to clue in. But I'll wait. I'm a patient man.
I will say, watch NFL football this weekend. There's games all day tomorrow. There's, I think 3 games tomorrow and games all day. And watch how bad. Don't watch just Mahomes and, watch how bad some of these quarterbacks are. And then watch Will Howard and say, are we sure that he can't play at all in the NFL? Are we sure? I mean, I watch Drew Lock. I watch Tommy Cutlets. I watch DTR. I watch bad quarterback play. Really bad. God, who's the guy? Chase Daniel. Chase Daniel from Missouri. He played 15 years in the NFL and made $40 million. And I think he threw 50 passes in his career. So again, could that be Will Howard? Yes. I mean, there's just no way. I don't know. Again, I watch. There's bad court. Mike Mock or Matty Mock, the guy from LSU that beat us my senior year. Seattle signed him. He had that one game for Green Bay where he threw 500 yards, and Seattle signed him that huge deal. And then Russell Wilson beat him out before the first game. But I don't know. Like I said, I've just seen a lot of bad quarterbacks, real bad. And I think it just comes down to getting into the right circumstance and. You're in the right system. Like Baker Mayfield, who me and Nevada hate Baker Mayfield, but that guy went from Cleveland, cut by Cleveland, goes to Carolina, cut by Carolina. LA Rams don't re-sign him. Then he goes to Tampa, and he's a Pro Bowler now, $180 million extension. So again, we'll see. Josh Dillon, aka Nikita Kucherov, thanks for the 5. Appreciate you, brother. Do you take any stock in the rumors of Quinn Ewers coming back to Ohio State? Does that mean Julian says? No, Quinn is not going to Ohio State. I promise you. If there is one human being on this earth that knows that Quinn Ewers doesn't come back to Ohio State, it's me. Trust me. I broke the Quinn Ewers was coming to Ohio State early. So again, but we might see him next week. So hey, buckle up. We get to go see. I mean, again, this run we could go on where we beat Oregon in the Rose Bowl, then we go beat Quinn Ewers in the Cotton Bowl in Texas, in Dallas, in his hometown, and then we got to go play the Georgia Bulldogs in Atlanta. That is, you want to talk about throwing down the gauntlet. That is the gauntlet. But hey, I'm here for it. And we got some tough hombres on our team. So excited for them. Nevada, I'll squash that. I mean, Quinn's got some humongous offers to stay in school for another year from schools that aren't from Texas. They're not the Longhorns. So because it ain't Ohio State. Promise you. Nevada, anything to add to that?
No, Ohio State's not shopping for a quarterback. So, yeah, the Quinn Ewers, we can let that one die. We love Quinn, but Quinn is not coming back to Ohio State.
Yeah, Quinn's going to go to the league. I mean, why would you play college for another year and risk injury and go play in the NFL? All right, especially because Quinn's in a good spot right now because he's not going to be the first pick. I mean, he'll be a first rounder, but probably be a late first rounder. And I would rather be a late first rounder at quarterback. Because when you're the number 1 pick like Shador's going to go to the New York Giants and get massacred, like all their like Daniel Jones and all these other quarterbacks that they've had, and I just don't think that that's beneficial. You look at those teams at the top of the draft, man, and I mean Caleb Williams getting the tar beat out of him, and Bryce Young, and hell, even C.J. Stroud. I mean, the Texans' line's been atrocious this year. And I mean, CJ is gun shy now. He doesn't even look like he's a shell of what he was last year because you can't protect the guy, man. All of a sudden, these guys start seeing ghosts because the pass rushers in the NFL are humongous and they're fast. And when they hit you, it really hurts. So, I mean, you look at some of these rookie quarterbacks, man, and that's why they don't last long because they go to these bad operations.
Kirk, how about Caleb can't miss Williams?
Well, that's what I said. He was the first guy I said. I mean, Caleb.
Watch him get sacked 8 times yesterday or whatever it was. So it's just
he's
so bad
for Seattle. I mean, yeah, and he was supposed to be the second coming of quarterbacks because he's. But again, when they can't protect you, and again, these NFL defenses know, hey, this guy's gun shy. We're gonna blitz the crap out of him, and make him get rid of it. And Caleb loves to ad lib and run backwards. And I mean, he plays quarterback like drunk frat brothers play Madden on a Friday night. You know, when they both have the sticks and they've been drinking all day and they come home, play Madden, and they run backwards and take a 13-yard sack. And you're like, oh, this is fun. Like, he plays like that in real life. And I'm like, and again, Caleb Williams, who's the best quarterback to ever come out in the history of mankind, according to all these draft analysts, he already has his offensive coordinator fired, his head coach fired. He's probably going to cost Ryan Poles his job because, again, when you have Jaden Daniels right behind him, and Jaden Daniels is lighting it up, and Caleb Williams is a Fruit Loop with, paints his nails and wears lipstick and stuff. Like, I don't know. But again, it is what it is. I mean, it's always revisionist history, but Jaden Daniels is that dude. D. Sunny, thanks for the 5. What were your emotions and thoughts during the pass interference call on Miami on Chris Gamble? That was the only time we had it go our way. Nevada, I'll let you go first because you were at that game. I bet my house you were, weren't you?
I was at that game, and I was we were on the same side of it, but kind of not, maybe 25 rows up down on the other end. And so when it happened, like, we didn't see the flag, so we literally did not know for at least 5 or 10 seconds that there was a flag on the field. And so that was definitely a range of emotions that went there. And it's a funny story. My future father-in-law was watching the game, and when that play went and it was incomplete, he shut the television off and didn't realize that they'd called the flag, and then Ohio State came back and won. So later on the night when we called him and we're whooping it up about the game, he did not know because he thought that we had lost the game on that play. But definitely the right call. There was about 4 other calls that, had there been replay, that game would never even have made it to overtime. But yeah, great call. But I can vividly remember thinking, oh my gosh, we just lost, and then the flag, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching it on TV. I was committed. I mean, I had signed my letter of intent and I hadn't signed. I signed in February because we didn't have the early signing day back then, but it was exciting, man. I mean, to win the national championship, and you're the, I was committed there. And again, it was nerve wracking because, like, I got to know a bunch of those guys. I went on my official visit in December. So I got to know Rob Sims, and, Robbie was a true freshman, started the game at left tackle as a true freshman. So Ivan Douglas, God rest his soul, who's since passed away. It's fun. It's terrible. Like, the guys that should have been our starting tackles that game, him and Shane Olivier both passed away, which is terrible. But Ivan, he had blood clots and couldn't, I don't think he could go. So they had to start Robbie, but I was watching Rob the whole game because they said I was going to play tackle, and he was a true freshman playing tackle, and he's really a guard playing tackle, but shut it down, and nerve wracking, I mean, to say the least. But I was so excited for Jim Tressel because, like, I remember when I was getting recruited by Ohio State, I went to every single game. They offered me tickets in recruiting, and again, I didn't understand recruiting, but basically it was like I had season tickets to Ohio State for free. I had 3 tickets every game, so I took like my teammates from high school, and I took my friends, and it was great. Like, I mean, I used to love going to the games, and I was probably the only recruit that went to every single game, which, again, Ohio State absolutely used that against me because they're just like, well, this guy, if we offer him 3 minutes before his signing day is over, then he'll jump in the boat. And so they waited forever to offer me. They offered some horrifically bad players, including Ryan Poles, the GM of the Bears, ahead of me. But again, I never let him forget about that for as long as I live. But it was fun. But I mean, I watched them in some really good games, some really bad games, some tight games. And I was just happy for Tress, man. I love Jim Tressel to death. And it was cool because, that next year we were the prohibited favorites to win it again. And then we lost Maurice. So when people wonder why I love running backs, it's because I saw what our offense looked like without Maurice Claret, and with, the guys that we had behind him, and it sucked. When you lose a first-round pick at running back or a 5-star running back and you replace them with guys that aren't anywhere near that talented, it's like taking the wheels off the car, essentially. So, but it was awesome. Yeah, and again, in terms of the bad calls, I think it's an Ohio thing because I was at Bottlegate. If all you Browns fans that remember the call on Quincy Morgan versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, I was at that game. And I remember when, like, Quincy Morgan bobbles the ball, and they move the chains, the Browns snap the ball, run a play, and then the officials stop the game after the play had been run, and they say the previous to the previous play is under review, and then they overturn it because Quincy Morgan did drop the ball. He bobbled it, and they called it a incompletion. And I think it was on 4th down, so it was turnover on downs, and then Jacksonville won, and it just, this hail of bottles comes flying out of in Browns Stadium. And so again, I'm no stranger to seeing bad calls in person, because that was hilarious, because I've never seen in the history of football, only with the Browns. And again, you guys that are Browns fans know that there's more bad things to happen to the Browns than every organization combined. But yeah, I've seen bad calls. So that was refreshing that we actually were on the right side of a questionable call for once. Efdris is great. How would you prepare the Buckeye secondary to go against Oregon's receiver? What would you do best on best? Nevada, I'll let you take a crack first.
Well, I think, I mean, I think they've been doing a lot of best on best in this preparation. And, for the good news is they know what they're going to be up against. They played these guys. So, like, they know the speed. They know, how these guys plan to beat them. Obviously, Oregon will come up with some wrinkles. I think that the Tennessee game plan was the game plan, and I think that's going to serve them well in preparation for the Oregon game. If you look at what they did on defense against Tennessee, they played at Tampa 2 almost the entire game. Played guys they were not going to get beat over the top, and even they were playing quarters sometimes. They were playing way off the receivers, and Tennessee just kept funneling the receivers down the field, and Ohio State kept them underneath and kept anything bad from happening over the top. And I think that's exactly what they have to do against Oregon, because last time we played, it was those quick strikes. It was that 3rd down and 9s over the top for 67 yards. That was the stuff that killed us. I think Ohio State's, they've got firsthand experience. They don't have to see it on tape. They don't have to wonder about it. They don't have to compare it to anybody. They played it. And I think that's for a team that, if you looked at and said singularly, why did you lose that game last night? If you had to boil it down, and we all know it's a team game, but if we had to boil it down to one thing, it would be that Denzel Burke got beat 7 out of 8 times for 261 yards, or whatever, some ridiculous stats there. And Denzel knows that, and he knows the speed of the guys he's playing against, and he'll be ready. And I don't think that it's not about tape. It's not about one-on-one preparation. They have good muscle memory about what happened to them last time, and they'll certainly have a game plan for that. And Oregon's gonna have to respond with something different, because they're not going to be able to take the top off them this time.
Yeah, I think that, and the funniest thing about that is, I'm gonna see if I can find this. And I'm gonna have to be really quick with this, but I'm just telling you, like, the scheme we ran, on that long bomb, where Denzel got torched, we rushed 2 guys. I think it ends up being a 2-man rush, but it was a play where it was this close to being a perfect call by Jim Knowles and by our defense, and one of our guys didn't execute it. I can't remember if it was Cody Simon or if it was Ty. I can't remember who it was. I'm gonna pull it up real quick and diagram it for you guys, because it was this close to being Dylan Gabriel put in a coma, put in the hospital, and instead it turns into a 60-yard bomb. So again, I know that it's cliche to say football is a game of inches, but it's a game of inches. And this was a play where I remember I was watching it and I was like, oh my God, like, nobody realizes how close this was. Because again, everyone just sees Denzel getting torched and they beat the poor kid to death. But the pressure we ran, it was kind of goofy looking because we only had 2 guys rushing, but oh my God, it was a brilliant call. And again, you're gonna be like, oh, it's only brilliant if it works. But I'm gonna show it to you guys, because you guys are gonna be like, holy crap, this thing was beautiful to watch. And again, it was kind of like a sim pressure type deal. And Sonny Styles would have killed this guy. I mean, it literally the scheme was you could tell, like, this is why I love a lot of the stuff Jim Knowles does is he and our pass rush schemes are completely different now, but this was one that I was like, this is really good, you know, because you get a lot of equity. I think we drop 8. I think we dropped 8 on this one. I'm getting pretty close to it, so I'm trying to find it on the film, but it was a really good call. So again, I know that everybody was down in the dumps and we stink and Denzel stinks, but you know, again, you have to remember when you're a corner, you know, you have to rely on the pass rushers, and if the pass rushers can't get home for whatever reason, then it really makes it tough to cover a guy. And I think that that's something that our pass rush with the new scheme that we run has made it a lot easier. Again, it's not an accident that we haven't given up a touchdown in the air in the last, 6 or 7 games or whatever it is. And a lot of that has to do with our pass rush turning up. Because these quarterbacks, you go look at Indiana and some of these guys, man, I mean, they're living in hell in the pocket because our pass rush and some of the stuff we're doing schematically, it's been hard to block. And again, a lot of times with pressure on defense, it's not just a defensive end hitting some amazing spin move or some hump move like Reggie White or some TJ Watt move. A lot of times it's some pressure that makes the protection break down, or it's a misassignment by the offensive line. A running back gets overwhelmed. There's a lot of different ways to create pressure. So it's not is just, Jack Sawyer's got to hit a good spin move to get around the tackle. So, but this was I think I'm getting close to it because it was just an amazing look. Let me I'll get the next super chat up and I'll find this because I don't want to keep this thing rolling. Apologize, guys, because that just sprung in my head and I was like, I want to show this real quick because it was good. Cordero Jackson, thanks for the 5. Worst performance in 2 years and an onside kick with home field advantage is still 1-1 with an OPI call. Give me OSU by 17 plus. Nevada, I'm right there with them because again, our defense has been suffocating since then. So, what are your thoughts, Nevada?
Well, if somebody beats somebody by 17, it's going to be Ohio State. Ohio State is not going to get blown out by Oregon. So if you tell me after the game is 42-24 or something, it's Ohio State.
Yeah, he said give me OSU by 17 plus.
Yeah, so exactly. That's what I'm saying.
For a blowout. Yeah.
I think that's that. I don't. I have a lot of respect for Oregon's offense. So I definitely don't want to downgrade how good they are offensively because I think they're very, very good offensively. But I think this Ohio State team's next level. So I'm with them. If anybody was going to beat somebody by 17, I'd say it'd be the Buckeyes.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think that these guys the motivation is real, and like I said, the ability to right all the wrongs in one kind of 3.5 weekish span is something that you just don't get this in life. And again, these guys have like a second shot at these guys, and I know that they're dying to prove that this isn't the defense that they want to be remembered by because these guys, you win this one and it erases the first one, which is all you really want in life. All right, I think I found it. So I'm going to bust this thing real quick. Give me 1 second to see if this is it. Yeah, this is it. All right. Let me get to this back angle of it. So this is a pressure look with Lathan Ransom. And Ty Hamilton's the guy that hurts us here. And again, I love Ty Hamilton. I love me a good nose guard. Nose guards don't get any credit. They got to do a lot of the dirty work. It's not always really fun. So, and again, I got to be real quick with this. But what should happen here is Ty Hamilton needs to take this. He needs to occupy this guy better. He needs to grab this guy. He needs to grab the center and occupy him. Lathan has walked up here. So you get all these guys that are standing to occupy. And then Sonny's got to hit this thing and kill Dylan Gabriel. So the problem is he doesn't occupy the center. So he gets out of there. He's too worried about getting to his drop. And he bounces out of here too quick. Really, if I was coaching him, and I used to do this on the scout team, I'd say just grab his shoulder pads. Screw it. And then just be late on your drop. And then Lathan needs to attack his shoulder and grab him. And if he grabs him, grab his shoulder pads and yank him, because they're never going to call that. And then Sonny has got a kill shot on Dylan Gabriel. But instead, he's too worried about getting to a stupid drop, which again, I totally get it because he's a D tackle and hasn't dropped a lot in his life. He's going to be late on the crosser. But if he grabs this guy and he grabs him and Sonny's here, then it's over. I mean, Sonny has a free run. And again, even if he doesn't get there, if he just gets his hand up and matches the ball, that's going to deflect it. So again, this ends up being, the bomb. And this is, poor Denzel gets cooked here, but that's how close it is. And again, that's why, again, to me, the reason why I like this show and the reason why I like to talk to you guys is because, again, are we terrible or are we close? Because it's different. When you give them a bomb like that, is it because we just suck? Our players aren't good enough. Coaches suck. Whole team sucks. Fire Ryan Day. Burn the Woody Hayes down. Whatever. Or is it we're this close? And what's the coaching point? Again, I tell Ty, grab his shoulder pads. Again, I played offensive line. I know how you can game the system and generate pressure. And I mean, you got Sonny Styles running in the A gap untouched. He's gonna kill him. At the very least, he's gonna disrupt his timing so he can't drop a perfect spiral in the bucket. So, but I remember that play vividly, and I remember I was just like, holy cow! Like because again, it looked terrible on TV because they're like, everyone's like, why are we only rushing 2 guys and why are we dropping 9 and whatever? And I'm like, well, it actually was a great call. Now it just wasn't executed right. Now again, obviously we give a touchdown, obviously give a bomb, so of course it's terrible. But it's like that was really close to being something where you're generating hellacious pressure. With a lot of coverage. You got a lot of guys back in coverage, but you've got a guy going right in the A gap, right down the middle. Because what's the quickest pass to the quarterback? The A gap, right down the middle. So I just had to show that real quick because I looked at that. I was like, that's a really good call. But, again, when you get fired, it's fine. Jim Dushel, what's up, brother? Thanks for the 5. He says, our QB room is fine. Appreciate you, my dude. Nevada, I'm sure that you're excited about the QB room because with Julian saying and with Tavian coming in, we're gonna have 2 5-stars. We'll be in good shape. Correct.
Yeah, I mean, and you can't have a room with more than that because anybody that's there is going to leave. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the present, excited for the future, and got a lot of good guys in the room.
Yeah. Josh Dillon, thank you for the 5. Do y'all think we get a clipboard QB in the portal to help JS and Tavian develop, kind of like an extra QB coach? I'm sure that they're going to look for Gunnar Hoke or whoever that kid was we had last year that was the 7th-year senior who wants to get into coaching type guy. I mean, those are basically just like absolute emergency quarterbacks. So you could potentially try to keep Tavian's red shirt. Again, I don't know if he's going to make it for 5 years, but it's always nice if you don't have to burn that kid. But again, and plus Lincoln Keenholz, he hasn't decided what he's doing. I mean, everybody else is taking off, but Lincoln's got a decision to make. And if he sticks, he's our backup. And then Tavian can be the number 3. And then you get I'm sure we'll take a portal quarterback. It won't be a high caliber guy. It'll be a guy like a roster filler. Basically, it's like a camp arm. You need guys, you need at least 5 quarterbacks for training camp just because you're doing drills all over the field. And you need live arms, because if all of a sudden when your quarterback has a shoulder injury or they got to, not throw for a day or 2, you got to have live arms to be able to get through practice. So they'll take at least 1, maybe 2, maybe a preferred walk on. So Nevada, you in agreement with that?
Bring back Chug with this new ruling there for that Vanderbilt quarterback. To bring back Chug. Chug's got to have some more eligibility somewhere. He should petition somebody, get somewhere else. He's the perfect guy.
I miss Chug. Chug was great.
I do miss Chug.
The human victory cigar, Chug.
He had that one play that he was so close to greatness too.
Oh, for sure. He was like our backup at 19. It was like if Justin Fields breaks the shoestring, man, we got Chug rolling in there.
Well, remember when Fields went down in the Michigan game? He went down and Chug came in, and Chug had a chance to throw it. He would have been a legend if he did complete that touchdown pass.
Throw it deep. Throw it over their heads.
Throw it deep. Throw it, Chug.
Pooh Bear, thanks for the 5. The last time Sawyer drew a holding was the 3rd game of his career. That was 48 games ago. Our starting line has drawn 0 holds this year. That's crazy. And again, I don't know what that is. But again, it's almost like it's a team edict where none of our guys, we don't get any penalties called in our favor. I mean, again, I just put up the thing. We're 134th in the nation right now. So, yeah. Your thoughts on that, Nevada?
I mean, it's an impossible stat. I mean, it's just hard to really wrap your minds around it. And you just hope that it changes here in the next 3 games because it's really hard to win if you don't win the penalty battle as well. And maybe our increased pass rush will cause them to hold a little bit more. And I really think that's going to be the result, because I think our pass rush is getting better. And when that happens, you're going to get some holdings.
Yeah, RV, thanks for the 5. Maryland's game versus Oregon was a great example of what the offense we had against Tennessee could do. Confident passing game eats their secondary alive. Yeah, I mean, I just think that with JJ Nemeka and Will Howard healthy, again, you can pull up about 7 games this year of Oregon's defense getting torched or not doing too much. And then you can pull up against their offense not doing too much. And like that Wisconsin game, they eked out 13 versus a bad Wisconsin team. This isn't a vintage Barry Alvarez Wisconsin team. I mean, Luke fired his offensive coordinator, and they're not real good. But again, I don't know, Nevada. Your thoughts? Maryland's game versus Oregon was a great example of what the offense we had against Tennessee could do. And again, I'm with you. A confident passing game eats these guys alive, especially like you feed JJ and get him on fire early, and it's going to be curtains for these guys. Your thoughts?
Yeah, a confident RPO game, and trust the RPOs, because then when if they commit to pressure, you just punish them, and if they lay back, you punish them on the. I think you need to have a veteran quarterback making good decisions. I didn't think Will's decision making was very good in the Michigan game, and clearly he was impaired. His performance wasn't good, but as bad as that was, man, he was on point against Tennessee. And if we see that Will Howard again, we see that game plan again, it's going to be a long night for the Ducks.
It's going to be curtains. All right, Nevada, great show. Let's wrap this thing up.
Yeah, no, just one day closer, just a few more sleeps, and we get it on. I loving what I'm hearing from the guys, loving what I'm hearing from the staff. I really think that they've got a really good pulse on what they need to do against Oregon, and I just think they've got a huge psychological edge heading into this. We're healthy. We're in a great frame of mind. And I think the staff's in really good alignment. So absolutely no excuses for this game. And I really think it'll be our best effort of the year on both sides of the ball.
I totally agree with you. I think it's going to be fantastic. I cannot wait for it. It's coming very, very soon. So if you guys enjoy our content, consider joining BuckeyeScoop.com. That is our premium website. You want concierge access to Nevadabuck and I 24 hours a day? That is your spot. It is a nonstop, just high-end premier club of Ohio State Buckeyes that love talking football. The message boards are always on fire. Again, if you guys like our chats on here, it's like a chat 24 hours a day. So this is 90 minutes to 2 hours a day, but Buckeye Scoop, man. And a lot of you guys have jumped over there. I love seeing the same screen names that have jumped from here to there, like Pooh Beard and some of you guys. And it's awesome just seeing you guys on there. Devin, I love seeing you guys on there. So I just appreciate you guys being a part of our community. Again, if you guys enjoy our content, please leave us a like, click subscribe. Also click that little alert bell. If you'll do something amazing for Christmas and for New Year's to give your spouse, your family, the greatest experience of all time, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Grab your spouse's phone, sign them up. Say, I just got your Christmas gift for next year. Already knocked it off the list. I signed you up for the #1 Ohio State podcast in existence on the audio format. So Apple Podcast, Spotify, appreciate you guys so much. So with that being said, again, the weekend's here. Great time to kick it. We're going to have really good coverage the next few days leading up into this game. And we appreciate you guys so very much. Oh, got a super chat at the buzzer. My favorite, my boy Jim Jackson. What's up, brother? Knock this thing. Here we go. Jim Jackson, thank you for the 10. Burke, do you think we'll eventually get a top recruiter blue chip transfer to replace Jack and JT? Does Coach Johnson still have the ability to recruit and land the guy? It'll be interesting. We took the one end who is a lesser guy, but you got to play Caden Curry and Kenyatta. I mean, those guys have waited around and they've waited their turn, and they're going to be seniors next year, so they're not young bucks anymore. So I think that you got to let those guys start and get rolling. It just really comes down to who's out there and really what's the price. I mean, so all these guys have tickets on them, and you got to know, are they worth the money? How does it disrupt the room? But he could absolutely still be the guy. I mean, he landed Edric Houston, who was the best end in the country, moved him to 3 tech. I think Edric's going to be dynamic next year as our starting 3 tech. So yeah, he can still land the guy. I mean, Larry, his resume is outstanding. He is a monster in the pantheon of great line coaches and technicians. And again, I just don't think he's going anywhere. I mean, he's making $1 million a year almost to coach the D line and coach 5-stars. I mean, it's looking pretty good. I mean, the way that the salaries have exploded the last few years for coaches, like, I don't see him going anywhere. I could be wrong, but again, I just think that that's where he's going to be. And I love LJ, and I've said it a million times. I played against his guys at Penn State. His guys were always physical. They're always tough. They're always very well coached. Blocked Tom Bahali in 04-05. He's you have a great rest of your day, and I hope you and the wife have got some good plans on Friday night other than watching Buckeye Scoop, but I appreciate you, brother. So with that being said, as we wrap this thing up, you guys have a great night. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. We will talk to you guys tomorrow night, about 7:10. We will knock this thing out, but I appreciate you guys. You guys have a great Friday night. Go Bucks.